Before the Super Bowls, before the banners, before the legends became legends, there were quarterbacks who carried Pittsburgh on their backs, in the cold, under pressure, when winning wasn't guaranteed. Some were champions, some were questioned, some were misunderstood. But every single one of them defined Steelers football in their own way. This isn't just a top 10 list. This is the story of toughness, expectation, and the men who stood under center when the entire city was watching. From forgotten names to icons who changed the NFL forever, we're counting down the 10 quarterbacks who defined Steelers football. And trust me, number 1 is untouchable. If you love Steelers history, hit like, subscribe for more untold black and gold stories, and drop your favorite Steelers quarterback in the comments, because this list might not end the debate. It might start it. Welcome to Black and Gold Legacy, where we don't just remember history, we relive it. Number 10. Mark Malone. Mark Malone is rarely the first name mentioned when Steelers quarterbacks are discussed, but his place in the franchise's story still matters. Drafted by Pittsburgh in the late 1970s, Malone entered a team that was already defined by greatness. Terry Bradshaw was the face of the dynasty, and expectations at quarterback in Pittsburgh were unforgiving. When Malone eventually stepped into the starting role, he inherited more than a position. He inherited comparison. Malone played during a transitional period, when the Steelers were trying to remain competitive while slowly moving beyond their championship core. The pressure to win never disappeared, even as the roster changed around him. His time as a starter wasn't dominant, it wasn't glamorous, but it was important. Malone represented stability during uncertainty. He kept the team competitive at a time when the dynasty era was fading and the future was still unclear. In an organization built on continuity, simply holding the line mattered. He didn't redefine the position. He didn't deliver championships, but he helped bridge eras, and in Pittsburgh, that role has value. Mark Malone may not be remembered as a legend, but he was part of the foundation that allowed the Steelers to move forward. Number 9. Mike Tomczak. Mike Tomczak's value to the Pittsburgh Steelers can't be measured by headlines or highlight reels. It's measured by reliability. Joining the Steelers in the late 1980s, Tomczak became the definition of a dependable quarterback, a player who understood his role and delivered when called upon. He wasn't flashy, he didn't chase attention, but when injuries hit or stability was needed, Tomczak stepped in and kept the team competitive. He read defenses well, protected the football, and played with discipline, traits that mattered in Pittsburgh's physical, defense-first identity. Perhaps his most important contribution came as a mentor. Tomczak helped guide younger quarterbacks, providing leadership in the locker room and consistency in preparation. In a league where backup quarterbacks often go unnoticed, his presence mattered more than fans realized. He represented professionalism, and in a franchise built on trust and accountability, that earns respect. Mike Tomczak may not be remembered as a star, but he was a steady hand during uncertain moments, and that makes him part of Steelers history. Number 8. Bubby Brister. Bubby Brister's time in Pittsburgh is often remembered with mixed emotions. He had the arm, he had confidence, and at times he showed flashes of being something more. Brister took over as the Steelers' starting quarterback in the late 1980s, a period when the franchise was again searching for stability under center. The dynasty years were long gone, and the team was trying to find its footing in a changing league. At his best, Brister could move the offense. He wasn't afraid to throw deep. He took chances, and when things clicked, the Steelers looked dangerous. But consistency never followed. Injuries interrupted momentum. Decision-making became a question. Big plays were often followed by costly mistakes, and in Pittsburgh, quarterbacks are measured by reliability as much as talent. Brister's era became one of almost a breakthrough season, almost a long-term answer. He kept the Steelers competitive, but he never fully earned the trust needed to define the position. Still, his time mattered. Brister helped bridge another gap, keeping the team relevant during a period of transition and uncertainty. He was part of the search that eventually led Pittsburgh toward its next identity at quarterback. Not a failure, not a legend, but a necessary chapter in the Steelers' quarterback story. Number 7. Charlie Batch. Charlie Batch was never the loudest name on the roster, but inside the Steelers organization, his value was never questioned. Born and raised in Pittsburgh, Batch understood what it meant to wear black and gold. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was a steward of the culture. As a backup, his role demanded patience, humility, and readiness. And whenever his number was called, he delivered. Batch stepped in during critical moments and kept the team steady without ego. He didn't need to be the star, he needed to be reliable. Teammates trusted him, coaches respected him, and fans knew that when Charlie Batch took the field, the team wouldn't fall apart. Beyond the field, his leadership mattered just as much. Batch helped guide younger quarterbacks, supported the locker room, and embodied professionalism in a role that often goes unnoticed. His impact can't be measured in stats, it's measured in trust. And in a franchise built on stability, that earns a high place in Steelers history. Number 6. Bobby Layne. Before the Steelers became a symbol of toughness and championships, they were still searching for respect. Bobby Layne was one of the first quarterbacks to bring that respect to Pittsburgh. Playing in the early 1950s, Layne arrived at a time when the Steelers were not contenders, but competitors. He brought leadership, confidence, and a winning mindset that the franchise had rarely experienced before. Layne wasn't just talented, he was tough. He played with edge, emotion, and a willingness to challenge defenses when most offenses were still conservative. Under his leadership, the Steelers posted winning seasons and showed flashes of what the franchise could become. His time in Pittsburgh was short, but his impact wasn't. Layne helped change how the Steelers were viewed, not as pushovers, but as a team capable of standing its ground. In a league still defining itself, that mattered. He didn't build the dynasty, but he helped give the Steelers their backbone, and sometimes that's where legacy begins. Number 5. Neil O'Donnell. Neil O'Donnell's place in Steelers history is complicated, and that's exactly why he belongs on this list. In the mid-1990s, O'Donnell gave Pittsburgh something it desperately needed: stability. He was efficient, calm under pressure, and capable of guiding a disciplined offense. Under his leadership, the Steelers were consistent winners. He led the team to multiple playoff appearances and helped bring Pittsburgh back to the Super Bowl stage, something the franchise hadn't seen in years. O'Donnell wasn't flashy. He didn't dominate headlines, but he executed the system. His game was built on timing, decision-making, and limiting mistakes, traits that fit Pittsburgh's physical, defense-first identity of that era. Of course, his legacy is often tied to one painful Super Bowl moment, but history is bigger than a single game. For several seasons, Neil O'Donnell was exactly what the Steelers needed: a quarterback who could manage the offense, trust the defense, and win consistently. He may not be remembered as a hero, but he helped restore relevance, and that earns him his place. Number 4. Tommy Maddox. Tommy Maddox's story is one of the most unexpected chapters in Steelers quarterback history. Written off by the NFL, Maddox had already left the league when Pittsburgh gave him a second chance. He wasn't supposed to be the answer, but football has a way of surprising people. When Maddox stepped in as the starter in 2002, he didn't just manage games, he energized the team. His confidence, his arm, and his willingness to take shots downfield gave the Steelers an identity they hadn't had in years. The city believed. Maddox led Pittsburgh to a division title and earned NFL Comeback Player of the Year, a rare honor that captured how improbable his rise truly was. He wasn't perfect, mistakes came, limitations showed, but for a moment, Tommy Maddox reminded Steelers fans what hope felt like again. He represented resilience, proof that even in Pittsburgh, where expectations are unforgiving, opportunity can still be earned. His time as the long-term answer didn't last, but his impact did. Because before the next great quarterback arrived, he helped reopen the door. Number 3. Kordell Stewart. Kordell Stewart remains one of the most misunderstood quarterbacks in Steelers history. Not because of a lack of talent, but because of timing. He entered the league with abilities that didn't fit the era. Mobility, creativity, and adaptability were treated as risks instead of advantages. And in Pittsburgh, that uncertainty followed him from the start. Despite that, Stewart delivered. He led the Steelers to an AFC championship game, won consistently as a starter, and carried an offense that relied heavily on his versatility. When given a clear role, he proved he could lead. But his career was defined by shifting expectations. One season he was the future, the next he was under scrutiny. Stewart played under constant pressure, often without the patience most quarterbacks are afforded, and still he competed, absorbing criticism while keeping the team relevant. Looking back, it's clear, Kordell Stewart wasn't a failure, he was ahead of his time. And in today's NFL, his skill set would be celebrated, not questioned. That's why he stands among the greatest to ever play quarterback for the Steelers. Number 2. Ben Roethlisberger. For nearly 2 decades, Ben Roethlisberger was Steelers football. He didn't just play quarterback in Pittsburgh, he survived it. From the moment he stepped onto the field as a rookie, Ben changed expectations. He wasn't eased in, he was thrown into pressure and responded by winning. A lot. He became the youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Then he did it again. And across eras, coordinators, and rosters, one thing stayed constant. When the game was on the line, Pittsburgh trusted Ben. Roethlisberger's style wasn't pretty. It was physical, relentless, unbreakable. He extended plays that should have ended. He absorbed hits that would have ended careers. And he made throws that felt impossible until they happened. More than stats, Ben delivered moments, fourth-quarter comebacks, playoff runs, season-saving drives. He wasn't perfect, he wasn't universally loved, but he was undeniable. For an entire generation, Steelers fans never had to wonder who their quarterback was. Ben gave the franchise stability, identity, and belief year after year. And when he finally walked away, the question wasn't what he did, it was how long it would take to replace him. That's the mark of greatness. Number 1. Terry Bradshaw. There is Steelers football before Terry Bradshaw, and then there is everything after. Bradshaw didn't just play quarterback in Pittsburgh, he built the standard. Drafted first overall into a franchise that was still searching for its identity, Bradshaw didn't arrive to comfort, he arrived to change everything. The pressure was enormous, the criticism was constant, and early on, the doubts were loud. But Terry Bradshaw endured, and then he dominated. 4 Super Bowl championships, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, an era of football that became immortal. Bradshaw led the Steelers through the most dominant dynasty in NFL history, delivering when it mattered most on the biggest stages against the best opponents. He wasn't flawless, but he was fearless. Bradshaw played with confidence that defined the locker room. When the moment demanded courage, he never hesitated. Deep throws, big games, championship drives. He made winning the expectation. More than numbers, Bradshaw gave Pittsburgh its identity, toughness, belief, and an edge that still defines the franchise today. Every quarterback who followed was measured against him. That's how you know a legacy is permanent. Terry Bradshaw isn't just the greatest quarterback in Steelers history, he is the foundation. From forgotten names, to misunderstood leaders, to legends who changed the NFL forever. These weren't just quarterbacks, they were the heartbeat of Steelers football. Each one carried the weight of this city in a different era, through rebuilds, pressure, championships, and expectation. Some won titles, some earned respect, all of them left a mark. Because in Pittsburgh, playing quarterback isn't just about throwing passes, it's about toughness, accountability, and winning when it matters. This is Black and Gold Legacy, where we honor the players who built the standard and kept it alive. If you agree with this list, hit like. If you disagree, drop your list in the comments. And if you love Steelers history, subscribe, because these stories deserve to be remembered. The legacy doesn't end, it continues.